Okay.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the AI to Love Adoptions podcast. I am Alyssa, joined with my mom, Heidi. And today
Hello.
we have Angel joining us, who is an adoptive mom. Hello,
Hey.
Angel. And
Hi.
she's been kind enough to kind of share her story with us. And we're really excited to hear you. So thank you so much for
Yes,
coming.
thank you. And
Thank
I
you
didn't
so
tell you
much.
before, but I think I love your little hair that you
Yeah,
have,
Oh,
your
the
thanks.
bandana
bandana is
and
super
stuff. Looks
cute.
so cute.
You know what? I needed to hear that because this is the first time I've worn it and I was having second thoughts. And so the only person I could ask is my husband and he's no help. So
No,
thank
Yeah,
you.
no.
it's cute. I like
Thank
it. I
you.
know I was like looking going, I wish I could do that, but I think it's darling.
Oh, thank
Yeah,
you.
it's cute. So we'll
Thanks.
just let you, kind of tell your adoption journey, what led you to adoption. Um, and then how I'm not quite sure if you did it through foster care or if you did private infant adoption. So if you want to just go through just your story.
Yeah. Well, thank you. We
Yep.
talked about it a little bit, but thank you so much for having me
You're
share
welcome.
this. It's such a, I've said before, it's like motherhood and specifically being my daughter's mom is like my greatest honor in the
Yeah.
entire world. And I am trying every day to not make it my entire personality, but it's so hard because it's so all consuming.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, a little bit about our story. My husband and I met 10 years ago, or about 10 and a half years ago now. Actually, I guess it's about 11 years ago. And from the very beginning of us talking and dating, we talked about wanting to adopt. We had people in both of our lives that we had only met through adoption. Some of our friends had adopted, and it just radically changed our lives. And if you don't really grow up with it, then you kind of only hear about it in movies and
Yeah.
in culture. And that, as we were talking a little bit earlier, like it can kind of have a negative connotation. So when I started to meet real life people and kids who were living in the adoption journey and experience, and I was a nanny for 3 kids that were adopted. My best friend had adopted.
Mhm.
I just was so overwhelmed at the way that love could be introduced through adoption.
Yeah.
It was the most, I felt like I had like discovered the secret to life, which was like,
Aw.
it was family could be made any way. And
Anyway.
I was so just like excited for that.
Yeah.
So we talked about it like quite a bit just because it was a part of our lives.
Yeah.
And it had been something that I always wanted to do, but my husband was a little bit more hesitant towards it. And
Mhm.
so we kind of just like, it was always a conversation, but it was never okay, let's get started, let's do this. And we got married and we tried to have a baby naturally, and it just never worked. And I am so thankful that I never had like I didn't have like, I don't have a sob story. It just wasn't happening and we
Yeah.
were okay with it. We were at
Mhm.
peace with it. And I come from a blended family. I come from, I don't have adoption in my immediate family, but in a way I do just because of how all of us are family.
Yeah.
And I just kind of saw from the very beginning of my own life that God could build our family however He wanted to, and it would be no less valuable and no less beautiful. And so I was really just like at peace the whole time, when we tried for 3.5 years to get pregnant, and we didn't, it didn't become my identity. It just kind of, it wasn't like marked by infertility. It was just, okay, well, I wonder how God's going to build
Yeah.
this family. I wonder
Yeah.
what He's going to do. And it was just a really cool kind of like trusting Him journey. And a few years after being married, we decided to move to Nashville. And when we moved here for my husband's job. And it was so interesting because it was this move that brought us across the country. And I think for that, we were away from our community and we were really starting to focus on, okay, do we really want to
Yeah.
build a family? It's not happening naturally. I think it's time we need to be intentional about it.
Yeah.
And we just both were like, well, what about adoption? Like, we've always wanted to do it. And, you know, just like we hadn't done infertility testing.
Yeah.
We didn't need a big, like, we didn't need this, like, this road is closed, so this
Yeah.
is your only option.
You didn't want to go through, you didn't have to go through all the infertility process to get
Mhm.
into the adoption decision,
Yeah.
which I have to say is very fortunate for you that it was all around you, because in most cases it's not.
Mhm.
With my husband, when my husband and I got married, my my family's my mom and my siblings were created through adoption too. So we
Mhm.
have two biological siblings, so me and then I have a sister below me, but then I have 8 adopted brothers and sisters.
Oh my
And so
gosh.
adoption was a part of my life, you know, early on. But with
Mhm.
my husband, he's like, you know, you get married, you start having kids, but nobody says, okay, when you get to this point, you might have a problem. And then
Mhm.
you're gonna have to find a different way to create your family,
Mhm.
because no one in his family had ever had a problem or
Mhm.
had to adopt or anything. So for them, it was all new. For me, it was it was I was like you.
Mhm.
I just cared more about becoming a mom
Mhm.
than I cared about how that process happened. I just
Mhm.
wanted the end result.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. And it's kind of nice, you know, and I feel like there is like a, I don't know the word for it, but there's like this like gap almost in understanding that it doesn't, what I really would love to stress is like adoption doesn't have to be a last resort.
no,
It shouldn't be a last resort, you know,
yeah,
and I think that is kind of, unless you're introduced to it somehow, like it's it kind of seems that way. And so we were so fortunate to never feel like it was the last
yeah,
resort.
yeah,
And we I think that kept us very positive, and it kept like it, you know, we didn't feel like we were fighting for this thing. We felt like we were just walking through a door, and that we were kind of being, we're both believers, and we both felt like we were being very obedient to this,
yeah,
just like this desire that both of us had, which was to be
yeah,
parents and to build family and to build the kingdom. And it wasn't anything that was, it was just so pure hearted, you know. And I think that was like the first time that I had ever really experienced anything that was that pure hearted. And it was really cool to walk through with my husband in that.
yeah,
um, we when we finally decided to start, it was like everything just happened. And
yeah,
honestly, that's how him and I met. Like, when I met him, I shook his hand. I knew we were going to get married. I was like, this is weird. I'm not going to tell anybody because I just know it's going to happen. And then it did. And
yeah,
then as soon as we started talking about it and we were like, okay, let's do this, the chips just started to fall. And it was such a pleasant experience. And I know that's not everybody's story.
yeah,
And again, another reason why I've been so hesitant to share our story and our experiences, because it was really unique and it was really beautiful. But I think that's a really special thing too.
yeah,
So we started like officially talking about everything in January 1st, 2023. And we were just sitting out in the front porch talking about all of our hopes for the year. And we were like, okay, we're gonna do this. We're gonna see what happens. And it was one of those moments where both of us, like looking back, we can still remember that conversation being like, well, we knew everything was going to change as soon as we decided to pursue it.
yeah,
And
Yeah.
we kind of got, you know, we just started having the conversation a little bit more frequently. And then we fully decided in March, no, I'm sorry, in April 2023, I sent the first email to get a home study done. And
okay.
then our home study got done 3 weeks later, which was so fast.
Yes,
You
that
know,
is fast. Yeah, it is fast.
it was crazy. Like all of
Yeah.
our friends who had adopted, that was so not the story. And as you know, I'm sure you've like
Yeah.
talking to so many people and having your own experiences. It never happens the same way twice.
No, it
Mm-mm.
doesn't. I mean, there's a lot of variables that go into doing the home study, like how fast you can get your paperwork, how fast FBI clearances and stuff come back,
Yeah.
how fast they can get you in to go through your home and to do it. So yeah, there's
Yeah.
a lot of variables that go into play with that. So 3
Yeah.
weeks, it's kind of when I just our stories are similar because when my husband and I decided to adopt her, to adopt again, we have one fall through, and then my husband's like, "Yeah, we can do it, but you have to do all the paperwork."
Hmm.
In our case, but once we decided and got the homestay, it went fast, and then she was born like a week later. So we found out about her. So it was just like it was crazy. Yeah, it was
Oh my
crazy.
gosh.
Yeah.
I was so curious if something like that was going to happen.
Mhm.
And because I have heard some stories like that
Yeah,
before, and it's just so wild. Like there's it's so out of your control,
it is.
and I
Yes.
think it's for somebody who wants to be in control, that can be really hard.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's
No.
obviously, I mean it's just a fast track into parenting because you're never going to have control anyways.
No. Yeah, that's true.
So
Yeah.
it's just the beginning of that. But yeah, it was a very quick process. Everything came back super fast, like our FBI clearances, all of that. We got our results back in less than a minute. Like
Yeah.
our friends,
Wow.
it took them 5 months to get their clearances back.
Yeah.
And
That's crazy.
we knew like right away, we're like, okay, we just kept on having the peace that we were pursuing the right thing. And we
Yeah.
just felt like there was a baby that was already out there.
And see,
And
and that's what happens, right? It's the
Mhm.
adopt it's when you adopt, it's our type of nesting, right? They talk about nesting, and it's
Mhm.
like you just kinda know, you have some kind of feeling that I've gotta hurry and get these things done or prepare, and at the time, you don't know why,
Yeah. Yeah,
right?
it's very interesting. And I think there was a part of me that at the time, especially like before we were matched, when all of that stuff was just kind of falling into place, I didn't have the word nesting to make sense of it. So
Yeah.
I just
Yeah.
kind of felt like this pull inside of me, like pulling me towards this process.
Yeah.
And now, obviously now I have some language for it, but it was all just it was all falling into place. And we ended up looking at, once we got approved and everything, we ended up getting we got connected with a consultant who, I don't know if I don't really hear a lot of people talk about consultants, but to us, that was like that was the
Mhm.
great asset, because she really helped kind of walk us through the process, and she kind of set our expectations and kind of managed us,
Uh-huh.
versus like if you go work with an agency, sometimes what I've heard is when an adoptive parent is trying to work with an agency, the agency is the advocate for the birth family, which makes sense. But then it can kind of be disorienting to the adoptive parents, to the
Mhm.
hopeful adoptive parents. And so
Yeah.
it's nice that we had her kind of prep us for everything. And then she was connected with agencies who would then, share cases and everything.
Okay. Yeah,
So,
so because we're associated with an agency, and our agency actually, we have a birth mom team and
mhm,
adoptive family team.
that's
So
awesome.
we have it, we separate it so that both sides can be taken care of.
That is so
Um,
awesome.
and so I didn't it's good that you're talking about a consultant so people understand what that is, because they usually hear about attorneys that will represent them, but not as much as consulting. So
Hmm.
I'm glad that that's something that you've walked through and you can talk about, because that's something that's newer,
Yeah, you
hasn't
don't
been brought
really
up.
hear a lot about
Yeah.
that much.
Yeah, and on our
Yeah.
podcast, it hasn't been brought up at all.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I definitely think that it's kind of like I don't know if it's like gate kept or what, but
Yeah.
it's an amazing asset if it's something that you can make work. It was more expensive, but we knew that we only had like we didn't have a ton to work with, so we kind
Yeah.
of wanted to put it towards the place that we would feel would help us the most
Yes.
and get
Yeah.
connected to us, and we just had peace for that. And the
Yeah.
consultant was amazing. So when I first started the process, I was on a bunch of adoption Facebook pages, which
Mhm.
I would tell anybody to don't do that because
You hear all those scary stories, right?
oh my gosh, it's like I was like laying in bed just like reading things so scared, and I'm like I can't claim any of this because this is like I don't even know what this is, but that doesn't have to be everybody's experience.
Yeah.
No.
And the one thing that came from the adoption Facebook page was I got some recommendations for consultants, and I was
Okay.
super grateful for that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I ended up working with, or my husband and I worked with Tara from By Your Side Consultants, By Your Side Adoption Consultants. And I think she actually runs the show, like it's just her, but I believe she's adopted 2 boys, and she was just amazing. Like the way she helped us and prepped us, and
Uh-huh.
like I said, set our expectations. She was awesome.
That's great.
We started getting cases probably like I think we got a case before we were even fully like signed and working with her.
Oh,
And
wow.
and then we ended up getting about 20-ish cases. And
Yeah.
so it's a weird thing, for somebody just to send a case for an adoption to your email, and you're like, it's not normal, but you kind of have to just disassociate and be like, okay, trust the process,
Yeah.
Well,
and
I know exactly what you're talking about because we have someone that's over that, and she has to give to see if you want to be shown on that situation. So, she has to give like basic information about the birth mom to the adoptive family and say, "This is what we have coming up. Is that something that you want to be shown on so we can show your profile to?" And so it is weird. It's just
Mhm.
it's hard. It's just
Mhm.
it's the matching process so that the right families go with the right child, right? Because
Yeah.
that's kind of what we believe in here is that every child has a family that they're
Mhm.
intended to go to.
Mhm.
So, and it's just a matter of that birth mom being able to find the family that she feels is best for her child.
Yeah.
And so
And
that's part of the matching process, right? So
yeah, I feel like adoptive parents are, do you call them HAPs on here? Do you guys call them HAPs or
taps.
hopeful adoptive parents? I've heard people say that, and I'm like,
No.
is that a thing in
No.
the world?
Not that we've heard of, no.
Okay,
I've never heard of it. That's the first time I've heard of it, but
I just made it up. I don't know.
if you've heard of it, maybe people are. It's just I'm not in the trending type of
Yeah.
stuff, but and since you have a TikTok, you might hear things more.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it was so I think it's a really special one thing that I would say just to people is like if you are adopting and you're even though it's kind of weird and it kind of feels awkward sometimes to be like you're getting these emails of these cases and you're like, okay, do we want to submit on this case? Like it is and our consultant really stressed this to us where like if she sent us a case, there was a deadline to it. All the
Mhm.
important information was on that email. And
Yeah.
if we said, yes, we submit this case, and if the birth mom chose us, we were locked in.
Yes.
Like, and I feel
Yeah.
like that is so important and so respectful to the process because
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's not shopping. It's
No.
not, connecting and just like seeing if you're a good fit. It's like you have to fully believe that, like, yes, you are planning
Yeah.
on raising this child and
Yeah.
you're also, in a way, like every situation is different, but we just had a lot of, there was a lot of weight to that process. And so we prayed over every case and
Yeah.
as much as you can, like if you can feel peace to submit on it or some
Yeah.
of them on paper, some of those cases were perfect and we chose not to submit on them,
Yeah.
and some of them were more complex, and we felt peace to submit on them. And
Yeah.
in the end, we submitted on 5 cases. Our daughter's case was the 5th case, and the birth mom chose us. And I have no doubt that it was meant, like our match was meant
Yeah.
to be. I fully believe that that adoptive parents and birth moms, and hopefully my daughter will feel this way, that it was meant to be from the very beginning.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if it comes to connection via email.
Yeah.
Like there are so many forces that
Yes.
bring adoptive parents and adoptive children
Yeah.
and birth moms together.
There is. So I was going to ask you, did did she select you only from that profile that you did, or did you have a conversation or talk to her prior to?
No, she connected. So we submitted, and then she matched with us. We sent her like a book, like we had an adoption book.
Yes. Yes.
And then we had like everything that our consultant had for us. So she chose us through that, and then afterwards she wanted to meet with us. So she was in Florida and we're in Nashville, so my husband and I went down to Nashville and we
Oh,
met
that's
with her. It was the greatest. I mean, it was amazing. Like it was so surreal just to be meeting with her, and I felt so honored. And I couldn't even believe it. Like as we were all talking, sitting there, like I just felt this deep connection to her, and my
Yeah.
like it was so special. And so she had the whatever you want to call it, the piece to choose us, and we had the piece to submit on it, and clearly it worked out.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was really like that whole process of from when we started to when we got matched was only 2.5 months.
Oh,
And then
that's fast.
That is very fast.
I have to say that is quick.
yeah, I
That's
mean,
quick.
it was crazy. It was so, and then get this, this is the craziest part. I mean, there's a million crazy parts, but so the day when we got the case back and it said like baby due date with the day that she was due was the day my husband and I met 10 years before. The
Oh,
exact
really?
day. Yeah.
That's crazy.
I know. And when I
Awesome.
met him and I told you I met him and I was like, you're the one, I
You
went
knew.
home and and I wrote it in my journal, and there was a whole part about like, and I won't even get into that, but I just knew like it was just so crazy. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is a decade in the
Well,
making.
well, see, and the thing is I'm a believer too. So in my mind, I'm like thinking, okay, those are God's ways of
Yeah,
saying
like that's your
this.
baby.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
Like
Yes.
here's a little thing that lets you know that you're on the right path, right?
Oh my
You know,
gosh.
that this is your child.
Yes, and it was so like I could get into it forever just talking about all the ways that God has shown himself
Yeah.
not only in our adoption experience but in my life, where I'm just like, oh my gosh, I can't not serve you for the rest of my life
Yes.
because you literally are controlling it all, and you've always been here. And it's just he made everything so clear. Like I said, like
Yeah.
we followed the piece of everything, and he just showed himself along the way.
Yeah.
And that has been our experience since, really, I would say like that's been the nature of our whole marriage and our whole relationship, but it's also been the entirety of our parenthood experience,
Yeah.
where it's definitely not, you don't know what tomorrow is going to bring. And we've had 1,000 little surprises, but it's just been like the peace. If you keep on following the peace, if you keep on trusting that God's going to work it all out.
Yes. Yeah.
So
For you.
yeah, we had so anyways, we met with her. I was so happy when we met with her, because there's this, I don't know. I didn't know anybody else who had done that.
Mhm.
And that was really scary. And so as soon as we left that interaction, we had exchanged numbers, and I texted her on the way home, and she texted me back, and we saw each other,
Yeah.
you
Mhm.
know,
Yeah.
and I knew that we were going to be connected for life. And I'm so
Yes.
thankful that it's worked out that way. And so we came back home, and also we didn't know if our daughter was going to be a boy or a girl. At the time when we submitted on the case, it was unknown gender. And then
Okay.
our mom told us when we were eating. And so it was a big surprise, and we were
Yeah.
so happy.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, we kind of came back, and we're like, okay, now what do we do? I guess we both just like work our butts off and, try
How
to.
long was from the time you were selected and matched till your daughter was born? How long a period of time was that?
Um, so we got matched on January 29th, and then she was born we got matched on July 29th, and then she was born on January 12th.
Okay. That's
So,
early on in the pregnancy then. Very.
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Um, it was all, it was all a lot of our family members, and we didn't tell anybody publicly. I didn't share on social media. I didn't tell really even people I didn't really tell anybody besides
Yeah.
our close family. And that's just because, so many things can
Yes.
change.
Yeah.
And I kind of needed to protect my heart with it. And
Yeah.
Mhm.
it was really crazy because like you come back and you're just like, okay, if you were 9 months pregnant, everybody would be asking you about your pregnancy.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But you just come back and you're just like working, 70 hours a week trying to stay busy. And then all of a sudden, like in the blink of an eye, everything changes. So
Yes. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. It's a completely different ballgame than getting pregnant because
yeah.
you know the whole process when the baby's gonna. Yeah, it's different. And so,
Yeah.
with my babies, well, my third one, we got to see him delivered, but the two girls, they were born already.
Mhm.
Um, so she was born. I didn't know she was born right after we got the home study, but
Wow. That's so great.
so but
Mhm.
by the time we got her, I mean, both my girls are preemies, and so they're biological siblings.
Mhm.
Alyssa, and then my second one, Kendra, and they're just 10 and a half months apart.
Oh my
Um,
gosh.
so
Awesome.
we got her, and then I felt another one coming.
Mhm.
So it's kind of like you get like this something's going on, and I can feel something, and so I got the homestay and everything done, and my husband's like, I just thought that we'd be home one day and the agency would call us and they'd say, "Oh, she had another baby. Will you take it?" And that's
Mhm.
exactly what happened. My
Yeah.
husband was home from work one day and they called and said that your birth mom had another baby. Are you prepared? And I'm like, well, actually,
That is so amazing.
Mhm.
we were because I had gotten all our paperwork done.
Yeah.
So we were prepared. They're like, "Do you want this child?" And then we're like, "Of course we do." But they made us hang up and think about it. They're like, "No, just hang up, and call us back."
You're like, whoop,
And
whoop.
that's exactly what happened.
Yeah.
That's exactly when we put the phone down and we looked at each other and called right back because it's
You're
like
like, there's no question. She's
it's like,
okay for you.
Mhm.
no. It's like, how are we gonna turn down her biological sibling? Like, we're gonna say, "Yeah, no, thanks."
Yeah.
Um, but yeah,
Oh.
so and I always think about it because one decision to get Alyssa, because when we decided to adopt her, they sent us all her information. She was a preemie, um, and they sent it over fax, and they sent a picture, and it's just this black silhouette with a white Band-Aid. I'm just like it wasn't really a picture, it was just a silhouette of a baby, and you could only see this little white Band-Aid on her leg, and I'm just but,
Oh.
and we had options to take boys, numerous boys too, but she was the right one. And I always go back and I think about that one decision. I'm like, with that one decision that God gave us, we got two.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So if we would have taken Alyssa, we wouldn't have gotten Kendra, and I can't even imagine, what that would even look like. So
It's so crazy. I feel like I don't, and you'll have to forgive me because I get, I, I try to articulate it, and it's like
yeah,
you
yeah,
can't make sense of the miracle
yeah,
of adoption because
Mm-mm.
it's so, I mean, there's so many layers to it. There's so many complexities to it. There's so
yeah,
many, you can't rationalize the peace that you felt to do that. You can't
yeah,
rationalize the peace that you had to turn down other scenarios
yeah,
and pursue one scenario over that one.
yeah,
But that is what built your family, and that
yeah,
is what brought you all together, and that's what's changed the course of your
yeah,
history. And
yeah,
so it's just,
yeah.
it's such a funny thing to, it's such a funny thing. It's like I can't even process, I can't even fathom it sometimes. It's
Yes,
wild.
yeah. I mean, well, and I think that, but then, like you said, that's kind of how God works, right?
Yeah.
So,
Mm-hmm.
and that's kind of why I feel like each child has an adoptive family, and
Mm-hmm.
and we just knew what child was ours,
Yeah.
basically,
Mm-hmm.
so going through the process, and we're like, no, that's the one we're taking. And my husband's family were like freaked out because, of course, we did transracial,
Mm-hmm.
um, and my husband's Caucasian,
Mm-hmm.
and so they were like, "Aren't you worried or concerned?" And it wasn't a
Mm-hmm.
concern or worry to us, because we just wanted a child, so that wasn't something that we said
Mm-hmm.
Caucasian only. And even though I'm like
Yeah.
really pale. I'm like German, so you can't. It's like,
Yeah.
whoa. But and so but now looking back, there's no difference. I mean, his family adores them.
Yeah.
Um, and she ended up being their first granddaughter,
Mm.
Oh.
which was
Yeah.
they had two
So you're
grandsons.
just got a special, you got a
Yes.
special
Mhm.
spot in all their hearts.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She was the first one that made the way for them. So
Oh.
yeah. And so it's been amazing. And now my husband, his family, he has family that's now adopted down his
Yeah.
cousins' lines and stuff. And because and they tell us it's because of what we did, you
Yeah,
know?
it's such a ripple effect.
Yeah.
I think and that's one of the reasons why I love sharing about it and I love talking about it, and I feel like again it's just the greatest thing ever because it's so, I think about the children that I when I first nannied for them. I mean, and even there were, my grandma adopted, and that was like way before my time,
Yeah.
obviously. But like that didn't really, I didn't know them, so it didn't really, sink
Yeah.
in. But
Yeah.
I remember like the first time I met the kids that I nannied for, and then my best friend who adopted, when those kids came home, so she did an international adoption. They're from Liberia.
Okay.
And that, as soon as you just like, there's something about being in the presence of a baby that like it took every single miracle to
Yeah.
to be in their presence for you. Like it's such an honor
Mhm.
to be in their presence, and I feel like that is it's so powerful, it's
Yeah.
something so holy, and something that only God can do. And so um the more that you kind of share that and expose that, just think of like the love that could be found in
Yeah.
sharing all of that. And
Yeah.
um it's so crazy. I had some people in my family say some things that were, um I wouldn't say discouraging. I would just say they didn't know, a lot of people don't know how talk about it or
Yeah.
process it.
Yes.
And there's so many unknowns, and people would say, okay, well, you're not, I know it's a huge thing to say. I don't know. Somebody made a comment that I won't repeat, but it was so like, you can't say that about, this is a human being,
Mhm.
and it's not like that, just
Yeah.
because there's so much misinformation, I think, about
Yeah.
what it all ends up being, which is
Yeah.
family and
Yes.
life.
Well, and I think that's what our goal is here. I mean, to get people talking, right?
Mhm.
And to get them to stop using or saying things that are just rude, honestly. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
And
And just
ignorant.
true too.
Yeah, and a lot of it comes from, ignorance, right?
Mhm.
They just don't know or don't
Mhm.
understand. And I'm assuming that you have an open adoption. It's kind of
Mhm.
what it sounds like.
It's semi-open,
Okay.
and I think her birth mom and we put her first.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And whatever, like, we have a love for each other and
Mhm.
a respect for each other that I am entirely grateful for. I mean, she changed my life. I'll
Mm.
always be indebted to her and always respect and honor her
Yeah.
however I can. And it's not open in the sense that we see each other. We're not in the same state, but I'm
Mhm.
I'm very grateful for the dynamic that we have.
Yeah. Yeah. But you communicate with her, and if you
Hmm.
got together, so you guys arranged what it would kind of look like before?
Kind of. I mean, it honestly all just we kind of just took one step at a time. Like, there was
Mhm.
never, I mean, so leading up to my daughter's arrival, the birth mom was kind of getting a little bit just curious about how everything would play out at the
Yeah.
birth.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And she really wanted me there.
Yeah.
And I was so grateful that she wanted me there. And a lot of people, we didn't tell a lot of people, but pretty much anybody that we did tell, they were like, that's a bad idea. And I had so much peace for
Yeah.
it. And I'm like, this is the, like, the honor of a lifetime. I'm going to be
Yeah.
there if I can.
Yeah.
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 I actually went down to Florida. We went to an ultrasound together about 3 weeks
Mm.
before my daughter was born. And then we had our bags packed and we are just waiting for the call. And then she called me the day that she was going into labor. And
Mhm.
we flew down there, and we like, it wasn't really a planned thing. It was
Yeah.
just like, okay, we're keeping up with each other every day. We're checking in, and
Yeah.
we're just gonna see what happens. And yeah, we've we've kind of just let it happen very organically.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And so, yeah, because with my third son, his birth mom, my husband and I were able to be in the room where she delivered. And
Yeah.
I always say what an honor that is. And it's a
Yes.
treasure because it's as close as I'll get to having birth, seeing
Yeah.
my child born.
Yeah.
Um, and how grateful I am for that.
Yeah.
That's a huge thing. So, and it's good that all of my four, I don't have contact with any of their birth moms at this point.
Hmm.
On and off with my youngest, but his story, his his biological sisters had two children, and those children have been placed in my extended family.
Oh, wow.
So, I have a sister who adopted a son from her, and then my other sister has a little girl from her.
Wow.
So they're cousins, but biologically they're his niece and nephew.
Oh my gosh.
So in our family,
Yeah.
the dynamic is crazy.
Mhm.
Um, but they
It's so funny
wanted,
to explain it to
they
people.
know,
Yeah, it's
they,
cool.
yeah,
Yeah.
they wanted us, they wanted us to take the son because the little boys who born first. But my youngest was 14, and I'm like,
I'm not starting
uh,
over.
yeah, I'm just like, and my four were so close. I mean, I started at 25, I was done by 30, 29.
Wow.
And so they were just like boom, boom, boom. And so I'm like, yeah, I don't think I want to do the diaper thing anymore and stuff.
Mhm.
And so I'm like, I would take him if I couldn't get any of my siblings to do it.
Yeah.
You know
Yeah.
what I mean? So at
Yes.
least because I wanted my son to have that connection too,
Yeah. Yeah.
and that to me, that's important. And so luckily we got him with the son, and then she came back with another one, and the who we felt it was her child, she was being a stinker, and she's like, I don't think it's mine. It's not mine because she doesn't like to be told what to do.
Oh,
Mhm.
yeah.
She's
Mhm.
that type. And
Yeah.
then she said one morning, it was like God just like slapped her and said, "What are you talking about? This is your child,"
Yeah.
basically. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And she's
Mhm.
just like woke up and it was overwhelming.
Oh.
That was her little girl. And man, that child, she's got 3 boys. And
Mhm.
that little girl is just like
She's a lot.
she's well, there's something about their line. I mean, they are a lot because Zach's a lot. But
Mhm.
I always say my youngest, his personality, his his birth mom had her tubes tied,
Mhm.
and he still got here.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So I'm like, that just shows that he's like, oh, that's just I can get past that. I'm not
Exactly.
stopping.
I was
You
gonna
know what I
say
mean? Yeah.
German.
Yes, he's
Mhm.
determined. And so they all are like that. But she's so spoiled from her 3 brothers. I
Mhm.
mean,
They
Oh.
she's
her.
like it. I mean,
Oh.
and the parents. I mean, my sister and her husband. I mean, she's like
She's a
the thing.
princess.
Yes. Oh my goodness, I adore
Oh.
her.
Oh my
But
gosh.
it's like crazy how those things end up and just and
Yeah.
I where I was going with your openness is that and seeing the birth, do you now have you communicated with her since?
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
we've communicated quite a bit. It's kind of I let everything be on her terms.
Yes. Yeah.
Um,
Mhm.
and so if she wants to reach out, I'm always happy to reach out, and I send pictures, and
Mhm.
I I am happy to
Give her
be.
whatever she wants,
Yes.
basically.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
obviously it's all, around
Yeah.
Ruby and what's best for her.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think I'm so grateful. I historically was a pretty, a people pleaser. And so I think the people closest to me were really careful. They were scared that something crazy was going to happen. And
Yeah.
we just left it all in God's hands. And I mean, that's kind of, there are people who don't understand why we have a relationship with her. And I'm like, that's not
Mhm.
for you to understand.
Yeah.
Mhm.
This is our family, and
Mhm.
it's such a special dynamic, and I have no idea what God is going to do in our life,
Yeah.
in her and I's
Yeah.
relationship.
Yeah.
You have no idea, and
Mhm.
I know I'm not going to close the door on that relationship, and I'm so grateful for it.
Yeah.
And yeah, if she reaches out, then we share. And I've just been very grateful to see how that dynamic has unfolded, because it
Yeah.
could go a million ways.
Yeah, it could. And in
So,
the long run, like you say, you're doing what's best for your daughter.
Mhm.
And from the ones that we've heard about and on the podcast, I think that the open adoptions, even semi-open, which you're talking about, are more beneficial to have communication, and that will be for her as time goes on,
mhm,
because you'll have that, you'll have her still in your life,
mhm,
her birth mom, and have that connection with her. And
mhm,
so if there's ever anything you need or questions you have, you can go to her and ask
mhm.
and build like right, she's an extended family member.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
so I think that that's what we need to start looking at it as more family and more
Mhm.
people to love your daughter, right?
yeah.
She's got more people loving her now and
Mhm.
Oh yeah, yeah. And I mean, it's such a. I know that not everybody's relationship with the birth mom and birth family can be that way.
yeah,
And I know that there's a million different scenarios,
yeah,
and I'm just grateful that ours does kind of lend itself to have that openness.
yeah,
Um,
Mhm.
And it's proven to be super special for us. And I mean, it's so funny because it's like, I remember a few days after she was born, I was like, okay, now, now what's the dynamic going to be? And I was kind of like holding my breath for it.
Yeah.
And then like a month went by and it was like, okay, I sent these pictures and I'm like, okay, well now what's it going to be? And there was always this idea that it was going to turn into something
Yeah.
ugly, and it never did. And it doesn't have to,
No.
and I feel like, again, kind of with what we were saying at the beginning, like it doesn't have to be this big, scary, angry, dark, sad, tragic story.
Yeah. Yeah.
And however ours is going to play out, like I'm very grateful for what it is right now.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's we just got so blessed, like, with everything, and the connection from like immediately, like her letting us be in the room, and
Yeah.
I got to cut the cord,
Yeah.
and I just never imagined that. And I think, like you were saying, when you are we ended up actually doing fertility testing through the process of our adoption, which I think we honestly did that to kind of appease my parents and to appease some people in our lives who just were curious about what,
Yeah.
I don't know why we did it. I still haven't figured it out. But we did that, and I already knew that I had some health issues. My husband has health issues, and so we found out that neither one of us could conceive naturally. And that never even hurt us for a second. Like, at that point, we were already matched, and we were already getting her room ready and getting everything like monogrammed, like we didn't care. But it was so unique to be able to be in the birth and see her birth mom bring her into the world and me being there. I just was like, this is absolutely so beautiful and so cool.
Yeah.
And it was the closest it might be the closest I ever get to that. I don't know, but it had a new weight to it afterwards. And I think, like, as a birth, or as an adoptive parent who was fortunate enough to see that, like, if a birth mom can do that, that's such a special thing to be able to give adoptive parents. And I'm just so grateful that our birth mom let us do that.
I was and will be eternally grateful.
Yeah.
For that experience, and allowing my husband didn't want to cut the cord. It freaked him out. But he did give our son his first bath, cleaned him and stuff. And then I stayed in the room and took care of him through the night. So I was in with her and was able to care for him. And I cherish those moments because I was able to get close to her. And in fact, she had false labor like 3 times. And so I had gone to each of those hospital visits with her.
Oh, wow.
Each time that she thought, she wanted to deliver on my other daughter's birthday. And I'm like, please don't put the 2 on one day. I go, I don't want that. So she actually delivered 4 days later, which I was so happy about. So I'm like, I'll keep the 4 days. So,
Yeah,
so
that
they
would
don't
not
have
be
to.
good if they had the same
And if you do
birthday.
their personalities right now, it wouldn't have worked. So it was like a good thing. In my mind, I'm like, please, Heavenly Father, do not let this happen.
I'm happy it all worked out.
Yeah, it did. But that experience being with her, and in the room and talking to her and getting to know her and stuff was amazing for me. We sent pictures for 2.5 years, and then she reached out to me and told me she didn't want any more contact. And so we haven't had any since. But, and my girls she was closed, but then since I got her sister, they went semi-open, but I couldn't get any information. And now the agency's gone and I can't find because they wanted to see pictures and stuff. And I'm like, well, at least they have each other so they know what siblings look like.
Yeah.
Because they do look similar. They have
Mhm.
similarities, but they're not identical. But
Mhm.
so and that's hard to find after the fact too. And that's why I think there's a benefit to the open adoptions, or the
Yeah.
semi-open.
Yeah. I think it was our consultant. I'm pretty sure it was our consultant who said that she tries to not do any closed
Yeah,
adoptions because it can be pretty detrimental, like long term.
yeah,
And I'll say this, like I was so when we got matched with our daughter, I was so overwhelmed with
yeah,
the fact that somebody actually chose us. I
Yeah.
was like, I can't process how this mom would trust us and let us do this.
mhm,
And I don't even like to share a shirt with people, like
Yeah.
how are you going to do? And it was such a empowering thing. Like I've never in my life, I used to be a pretty insecure person.
mhm,
And in some ways I still am, but I used to be so insecure. And when my birth mom chose us, I just something in me was like, you've gotta you've got to step up. You need to feel
yeah,
empowered. And
Mhm.
she gave me that gift in
yeah,
motherhood and in parenthood before my daughter was even born.
Yeah.
Um, and I feel like I was so grateful for that. It's such an insane process. And whatever, like I said, with our relationship, it's in her on her
yeah,
terms and to a degree. And it's so I don't really know the right word for it, but it's so unique. And
yeah.
I'm just gonna let it happen.
Organically happen, and
Yeah.
that's the way it should be. And
Yeah.
and that's good. When the agency started, my mom is actually the founder of the
Okay.
agency.
Oh wow.
And we've been open over 30 plus years.
That's awesome.
So I initially started taking the adoptive family line calls because
Mhm.
obviously I had a little experience
Yeah.
with
Mhm.
that.
Yeah.
Um, but I would always tell people, even back then, to do at least a semi-open because with the clothes, it's so cut and dry, and there's nothing we can do. If
Yeah.
something like came up with the child that we needed to ask the birth mom, we couldn't do it. And
Yeah.
if the birth mom, something came up with her and she felt like the adoptive family should know, it goes nowhere. It stays
Yeah.
Yeah.
right in the middle because
Mhm.
it's closed. But I mean,
Mhm.
if you even do semi-open, you have that room. You have that
Yeah.
room to grow and change it and utilize it in whatever way that works. And
Mhm.
so I suggest that people and that's what we tell our birth moms now, go. And the adoptive families, I don't even know if we don't the only time we have like agency select, and that where the birth mom wants the agency to select the family. But even
Mhm.
in those scenarios, we tell them to go semi-open because you don't know how you'll feel down the line,
Yeah.
um, if you want information
Yeah.
about
So
the
many
child.
things can change.
Yes. Yeah.
Mhm.
And maybe you want pictures or, something like that. So it's beneficial to keep some kind of openness. And with adoptive families, I don't think we even give them really the option anymore to choose clothes because it's not really something that ever happens
Yeah.
Mhm.
Mm.
anymore. And I think that that's a good thing because it gets more people talking like we are about
Yeah.
adoption and
Mhm.
stuff instead of it being so cut and dry and you don't know anything about the birth mom and the birth mom is made out to be like this. I don't know. Everyone makes her out to be like on drugs or this or that,
Mhm.
um,
Mhm.
a birth mom, and it's so not the case every
There's
time.
there's a million different
Yeah,
scenarios.
yeah,
And um I mean, I am a firm believer that things should be out in the open anyways.
Yeah.
Like not everything, but I feel like that's in communication and in dynamics and relationship. I feel like, if you're going to be in a relationship with somebody, having that openness is a huge asset.
Yes.
And this is such a unique relationship and a unique journey that, I mean, if it can benefit you and your experience and your child's experience and even the birth parent, like that's so amazing. I know it can't be, it's maybe some cases shouldn't be open or maybe, but that's all.
And that's the thing, right? It's everything
Yeah.
is case by case.
Case by case. And
Yeah.
that's one of the reasons why it's like I've been so hesitant to talk on TikTok about it, because I don't think people understand all that it can all that comes with it.
There's so much.
It's so much, and it really is case by case.
Yeah.
And just because it's open or semi-open does not mean it's going to look like somebody else's who was open, semi-open.
Exactly. Yeah, it has to be what fits for your family, right? And the birth mom. And that relationship, what's going to work best for you. And no, I always go back to, because the school system always would try to shove my kids in like this little box, is what I call it, with a ribbon on top. None of them ever fit in that box. I'm just like, you can't fit like a square peg in a round hole. If it's not going to work, it's not going to work. And so everyone has to figure out a way to make that specific situation work for them, right? And so that's why it's so different. And to only report and say that all of this is bad and all adoptive children have this and all birth moms are like this, it's not true. I mean, it's just not true. We can't group them into those places because it's such a broad spectrum.
Everything's just so different. Everyone's experience is different.
Because everyone's personalities are different. And so you can't expect to have two of the same. I mean, we've been open forever and we've not had one. And we're still learning things. Stuff still comes up that we haven't had before. And we're like, oh my gosh, we never even, how would you even think about that? Until it comes up,
Yeah. No, it's the truth. And that's why I love what you guys are doing with this podcast, because having the conversation and kind of giving people more of an idea of what's, could potentially happen. It's like there's a million ways that it could look, and there's beauty in all of them.
Yes.
And it's if anybody like wants to pursue adoption, it is, I'll say too, it's like it's not going to make the controlled freak personality. It's going to like disrupt that. And it's going to challenge that. And there's so much that can be learned from that if you lean into it. But it's definitely not like this controlled scenario.
No. I mean, it's completely opposite, because you totally have to submit your control. Like when, and that birth mom gets to select if she deems you worthy, kind of to be to be picked and selected to be a parent, right? And I think that was always a difficult thing, because in my mind I'm like, am I good enough? Did I write this stuff good enough? It's just a whole bunch of insecurities pop out in the moment. Should I change this? Should I do this? And so it's definitely not a controlling thing at all. You have no control. And you just go into it thinking kind of that, right?
Yeah. And that was like, I feel like a lot of the comments that people make that are hurtful to hopeful adoptive parents, and to probably even like adopted children. Like there's so many, I kind of knew when I started posting on TikTok, I knew that I was going to get some ridiculous things. And there's so much unknown. And I'll say it in a nice way, is like people just don't know. But I think it's so important I love that there's conversation around talking about all of the beauty in the gray area,
Yeah.
because otherwise people think it has to look a certain way.
Yeah.
And even with like, with race, like our daughter is mixed race, and we aren't even like, we're not even having that conversation right now, and other people are having that conversation around us. And it's like,
Yeah.
that obviously we deal with that as a family, and we
Yeah.
deal with that in our own space.
Yeah.
And and we celebrate that, how like between each other and between
Yeah.
our family.
Yeah.
But it's an interesting thing for so many people to just assume that it's going to look a certain way, it happened a certain way,
Yeah.
and it's all, it was all meant it's just a silly little thing, and
Yeah.
there's a lot of ignorance in it.
Yes, there is.
And I love that, we're here living as a family in bliss
Yeah.
and
Mhm.
in peace and in love, and
Mhm.
it doesn't fit this mold.
Yeah.
And it's still so beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and that's kind of how I felt, because you don't. And I always am hesitant to say it, because people get mad, because I don't see color when I'm looking at my children. I
Hmm.
see my children.
Hmm.
They're just mine. And
Hmm.
so when people start talking about that, I'm just like, it, like you said, it doesn't buy into the scheme of things when you're at home and you're a family,
Hmm.
the racial part of it.
Hmm.
Um, I'm not ignorant to the fact of racism and what they're dealing with and what they've had to deal with, because I've seen it.
Hmm.
So, I'm not ignorant to that. But as far as like parenting or loving, none of that comes into play. It's just,
Yeah.
I'm mom and they're my children. And that's the dynamic we work with, right? It doesn't matter. Nothing else matters. It's just our kids and how we're dealing with them. And a lot of people have a problem with that. So,
Yeah, and I don't know. I mean, obviously that the race component is like so tricky to navigate, but it's
yeah,
also really not that tricky.
yeah.
It's like it is and it isn't. There's
Mhm.
a level of respect in there. There has to be this, I feel like adoption in general, especially when there's mixed race or transracial adoption, there's this it is a very unique kind of almost like a placeholder
Yeah,
to have restoring conversations, healing conversations, clarifying conversations. And like it's I don't know, it's a gift,
yeah,
it's and I would hope that I would only ever learn from anything that my daughter brought me, whether it
yeah,
doesn't matter what it is, but I would
yeah.
hope that I would learn from it and be better with it. And it's yeah, it's such a funny thing. And I'm
Well,
sure
it
you
is.
do get people who get pretty heated about it though.
Yeah,
They
it's
do.
weird.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they totally do. And so, yeah, when we started adopting, I told because my siblings, I have biracial siblings, and I have Korean, and I
Mhm.
have full African American. So we're truly like a melting pot.
Mhm.
Um, but when my husband and I started adopting, I wanted to do one race and stick with that, because
Mhm.
I wanted them to have that unity, and I wanted them to be the majority in some type of setting. So in our home, it was my goal to make them the majority, because
Mhm.
outside of our home, they're the minority in a lot of the cases. And
Mhm.
so I wanted them to have that unity within
Mhm.
the home. And then they have it with aunts and uncles, because I have brothers and sisters that are younger than my children.
Mhm.
And so they are, I think our situation is, it's kind of amazing because of how it works, because they have within their own family, a community.
Mm-hmm. I've
Right?
never heard that perspective. I really like that.
Yeah. Yeah, and so it was just important because I knew they were gonna have hard things. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it's just and they have, and I've
Mm-hmm.
seen it, and, I'm not ignorant to those things, but I know that I love them. I couldn't love them anymore
Yeah.
than I love them. So, because they're I keep saying mine, I'm possessive.
Moms are possessive though.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's kind of like a mom thing anyway.
It's a mom thing. They're my
Yeah.
children.
Yeah.
That's so true. Are you a mom, Melissa?
No.
Okay. You'll be ready when you are, and you'll know what it's like to feel possessive.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I think that's just kind of just like comes with being a mom. Just want to like
Yeah.
protect and do whatever you can to just keep that child safe.
Never
Mhm.
goes away.
It
Yeah.
is weird too when as soon as it starts, like the day, I mean, I felt that way the day we found out we were matched,
Yeah.
but really when she was born, I was like, oh my gosh, like it is such a new calling, you
Yes.
know,
Mhm.
and all of a sudden it's like it I don't know. I used to see people wearing like the mama shirt and the mama hat, and I would be like, okay,
Yeah.
whatever. But now
Yeah.
I'm like, I am
You're
Mama Bear. Like,
Yeah.
I'm like,
you
I
totally
am
get
mom.
it. Yep. You totally get it. Well, and that's the thing is that once they hand you that baby too, and when I would talk to adoptive families, because how much paperwork you go through, it can be
Yeah.
very daunting.
Mhm.
And there's a lot of personal and it's stressful. I go, and the waiting, which the waiting is typically the hardest part. I go, but as soon as that baby is put in your arms, you'll forget everything else.
Mhm.
Everything that led you to that point will be gone. And
It's
all you'll see is, oh my gosh, look at this beautiful child,
yeah.
and I have to love and care for. I mean,
Mhm.
everything else
I
is gone.
Everything else is gone. Every cliche that everybody says about parenting is so true. Like I get so annoyed because when I was growing up, my dad was very like he had I didn't grow up with him, and every summer when I went to go visit him, his fridge was just like a shrine to me, and it was
Aw.
like all of these photos, and I used to get so embarrassed, like if my family or friends would come over, I'd be like, yes, sorry, my dad's obsessed, and then now with my fridge is like all my daughter, like,
You just have
Yeah.
them all over.
oh,
Yeah.
I cannot get enough. And I'm like, when people say like pride and joy, all those cliches,
Yeah.
I look at her, picking up a puzzle piece, and I just like could start crying because I'm like, the fact that you can pick that up, I'm so proud of you. Like,
Yeah.
it's so all of the cliches. It's so humbling because
Yeah.
you're like, I'm no different. I'm just a parent in love.
Yeah.
Mhm.
When
But
everyone
I'm so
says
grateful to have that title too.
yes. Yeah. When everyone says take tons of pictures, it goes by fast. So freaking true. I
Oh my
mean, it's
gosh.
just, I'm like, I remember when she was a peanut and now look, they're all grown ups.
Now
And
she's
so,
sitting right next to you hosting your podcast.
Yeah.
yes.
Mhm.
I think she likes me because she spends a lot of time with me.
Yeah,
Oh,
just
I'm
a
happy
little
to hear
bit.
that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, the poor child always, everyone is like, they'll say she sounds like me when she answers the phone, which we don't hear it,
Yeah, I don't get it.
but her mannerisms, she has a lot of the same mannerisms that I have, and so
Mhm.
um, her aunt tells her all the time, "You're just a mini me of your mother."
Yeah.
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 all
All
the
the time.
all the time. I'm like,
Oh,
I don't know if that's a good thing for her or a bad thing, but
I mean, it's so crazy because our daughter will do things, and I'm like, I know I didn't birth you, and I know that you're not his biological baby, but like you are her sense of humor, already it's like just little things where I'm like, you belong with
yeah,
us,
yeah,
you
Yeah.
know?
right. It's those
Yeah,
little things that they start picking up, and you're like, how did that happen? Because
yeah.
as the girls got older and they started to have different female problems, I'll just say,
Mhm.
I'm sorry if that embarrasses you, but that everything I had. I mean,
Mhm.
everything that I had and dealt with, because I had a hysterectomy at 30.
Mm.
She hasn't had to have that, but like migraines and different things, I'm like, I am sorry. I'm like, you would think that they wouldn't get it because they didn't come from me.
Mm.
But
Oh,
unfortunately, somehow they did
Yeah, it's
uh,
weird.
somehow they
that is
did
so
receive that.
crazy.
It
You
is.
guys even you guys even have the same glasses, and
There's
well, they're very
They
similar,
are
and
very
actually
similar.
you guys do kind of have the same mannerisms. Like
Mhm.
as I've been watching you,
I'm like, shake her
Yeah.
head the same.
yeah, yeah, it's so funny, and you're active. Like when you're actively listening, you're responding the same way. It's so funny. That's awesome.
We
That's
spend
so
too much
funny.
time together.
Maybe. I don't know.
I'm not saying that because I'll take whatever time I get.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yep.
I'm like hoping my daughter will be like that. I'm like, I want to be connected to her physically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, how can we be together all the
Yeah,
time?
I know. Well, and I think that's true. Her my daughter, my second daughter has a lot of similarities to my husband.
Mm-hmm.
And so this one, poor thing, just has got more of her mother similarities than her dad. So
Yeah. That's so funny.
but I was
Oh,
watching us too because I like look at her and I can see her nod the same time I nod and
yeah.
it just was like noticing it too. And
That's funny.
you never saw it. I'm
I
like,
know.
I'm
I
like
never.
looking
I
at
don't
it.
notice it until people point it out, and then I look back and I'm like, oh yeah, that is kind of true.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome.
Now you know what you can look forward to.
I'm very much looking forward to that. Yeah, my sister came down to visit us and to meet Ruby,
Mm.
and it was so funny because uh I hadn't seen my daughter do this yet, but she was like, she likes to do that, and she gets excited and breathes through
Yeah.
her nose and stuff. And my sister was like, "That is so weird. You used to do that when you were a baby."
Oh my
And I was
gosh.
like, "What? I didn't know I did that." She's like, "Yeah, we." And then she calls my mom, and my mom was like, "Oh yeah, actually." She's like, "I got some pictures of her doing that when she was little." And so we're both like making the same faces, you know. And I'm like, I
That's
didn't.
so
It's
cute.
just so crazy.
Yeah.
It's such a little like a little kiss I feel from God,
Yes.
you know, every time I hear something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's funny because like as an adoptive mom, I felt so like I kind of, you know, there's a lot of imposter syndrome. There's room for imposter
Yeah.
syndrome. There's so much room for it.
Yeah.
And I have just been so grateful to not really have a lot of that in
Yeah.
being her mom. Like I've felt empowered by her birth mom to be her mother.
Yes.
And then it's like the way when she came into this world, I felt so empowered to be her mother from the time she was born. And every single day, it's kind of like this dance of like, you know, learning how to be there for her.
Mhm.
And it's just this really, really special thing that I'm like so obsessed with. I'm like, I will
Yes.
spend every day of my life trying to be whatever I can to you.
Yes. Yes. Trying to be the best for
Yeah.
them, right?
Yeah.
I,
Hmm.
I like you said before, a while ago that you were a people pleaser, right?
Hmm.
And I would
Recovering.
yes, me too. It's a daily task though, I'm just saying.
Oh,
And and then I was really shy and quiet. I mean, like very. Um, and one way to get you over that is when my kids started school and I had to fight for them
yeah.
to get what they needed in that setting. It gets you over it very quickly,
Oh, yeah.
about being shy. I mean, it seriously took me out of the box, and I'm like, "You'll that mama bear definitely comes out
Hmm.
in
Mhm.
those scenarios," and you're like, "Yeah, no, you're not. This isn't happening. We're making
Yeah.
sure they get what they want." And you leave that in the past because you have no choice because
Yeah.
they're depending on you to get what they need, and the birth mom gave you that
responsibility.
Yeah, to do
Mhm.
those things, for
Mhm.
them, and so, yeah, no, still to this day, even though they're all older, freaking you fight tooth or nail, whatever they need,
Mhm.
right?
Oh yeah. I mean, I have been so my husband and I both, we've just seen so much growth in ourselves as individuals through becoming parents that
Yeah.
there were just like, I don't know if it was that we didn't care enough before. I don't know what it was, but when we became parents, it was like, okay, we're an advocate for this perfect baby,
Yeah.
and I will be her advocate and her support and her protector and all of those things until I can't.
Yeah.
And I don't really plan on that happening anytime soon. So,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, it's been so cool to one of the things that I'm just like so grateful in adoption, and I haven't really talked about it too much outside of just in conversation with him and probably my mom, but it's like I am so happy. There's this idea that I think a lot of people have when they go into adoption of like that whole concept of this is plan B. Like,
Yeah.
Mhm.
I want to be a mom really badly, but I can't have biological children. So I'll just adopt, or I tried and I couldn't. So now I'm trying this. And
Mhm.
there's this idea that it's going to be, you're kind of, there's this lie that you're almost getting second best.
Yeah.
And I am so grateful that I've never once connected to that lie.
I
And that,
haven't.
and
Yeah.
I'm just like, all of the power and all of the healing and all of the strength and joy and everything that I found in motherhood is so pure because
Yeah.
Mhm.
she is so pure
Yeah.
and children are so pure. And when you connect yourself to that, it's crazy how much can come alive in you.
Yeah.
And it's like you're not getting this, Kirkland signature version of parenthood. You're not
No.
getting
Mm-mm.
this like idea that parenthood is like it's parenthood asterisk. It's like
Yeah.
just as much parenthood, it's just as much family, it's just as much motherhood. And it's been so cool to see that confidence come up in that, like, I've done things as her mom, and I've just my husband has done things as her father that it's like we didn't have the strength to do that before.
Yeah.
And it's so cool. And I think that like a lot of people have messaged me talking about they feel like how they feel like adoption might be really beautiful for them after seeing some of our story. And I'm like, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why would it not be? Like,
Yeah.
it's actually the most beautiful thing. Like, it's not to say that, having a biological child is not as
Yeah.
miraculous. It
Yeah.
is just as miraculous. It's just different. This
Different
is
one.
if you have the chance to adopt, and if you have the chance to experience parenthood through adoption, it's just a totally different thing, and
Yeah.
it's so beautiful. But you are going to get all of those things that God intended you to receive through parenthood. You're going to get that in adoption too.
Yeah. I totally agree, and it's sad if in the cases like you were talking about, if an adoptive family feels like you discussed, they need to get counseling, and I personally don't want them to adopt,
Yeah.
honestly, because if you're gonna look at that child differently in any way, shape, or form, then this is my child, then don't adopt
Yes,
because
I
that
agree.
child deserves so much more than that. Um, that child deserves to know that they're loved, and it doesn't matter that they didn't come from my stomach. They're my child, and
Mhm.
you have to look at them that way. And if you don't, please don't. And I've said that before to people. I'm like, just don't adopt because those babies deserve a lot better
Oh
than that.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
they deserve to be looked at as the gift that they are.
Oh
And
yeah. And there's no reason, like, I kind of feel like traffic should stop and the freaking sea should part anytime, like it's like it is such they're such a gift from God.
Yes.
And you I 1000% agree with that. And I've had some conversations with people who have shared, like anytime I even get like a hint of that kind of perspective, I'm like, oh Jesus,
Yeah.
please protect the
Yeah.
child, whoever comes into that,
Yeah.
because there's already enough things that you're going to be going through life
Yeah.
having, you've got enough. The enemy is going to try to tear you apart no matter what.
Yeah.
But he starts with family.
He does.
And if he's getting in and trying to get into your family before it's even started,
Yeah.
you have to protect that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. I totally agree. And the gift that the birth mom gives us, I mean, knowing that they go home, we go home with the gift, and they go home empty-handed, and that knowledge and stuff should carry over how special that child is also, the birth mom's entrusting us to see them as our children.
Mhm.
So it's sad that people go there, and I mean, I'm sure you probably had the people say, "Oh, you've done such a wonderful thing by taking this." Right?
I had to tell somebody the other day, I don't think there's any, honestly, I don't know if there's anything, there are worse things you could say, but that's honestly one of the worst things that somebody could say to an
Yeah,
adoptive parent. You've
yeah.
done such an amazing thing. And I'm like, I want to, I mean, that is so not at all.
No.
Why you do it. I always tell people I was selfish because
Yeah.
it was
If
for me.
anything,
I'm
Yeah.
like,
it's like,
it was for me. It wasn't
yeah,
it wasn't for the baby. I was thinking about myself, through
yeah.
it. I wasn't thinking, "Oh, if I take this child in, I could be improving their life. I could be do." That's not why you do it. I mean,
I mean, I think there's a million reasons why people are, I'm forgetting the word, but like why they're motivated.
mhm,
But one thing is for sure, I would say most people, when they finally meet their baby and they're holding their baby, they are, it is not like, I'm such a good person. Like
yeah,
Mm-mm.
it's such a, you're experiencing such a love
yeah,
that, and I think that's where again a lot of people are like, it's not really the same as, you know, having and carrying your own baby. It's like, no, it is. It,
yeah,
in a way, like it is that connection and it is that
yeah.
undeniable love and that unconditional bond. Like
It's hard to
I wouldn't tell
explain.
a pregnant
Yeah,
person, it's so amazing what you're doing. Like,
Yeah.
and I feel like that is, I hate when people say that to me. It's like it
mhm,
is the most shocking thing in the
yeah,
world.
yeah. Well, my sister, the one that got one of my sons, the niece, she's had 2 biological and then it's adopted too. And she said that she was felt more connected with her adopted son than she did with the one that she carried,
Hmm.
after delivery. Now it's all good, but, it's and I think that when you adopt, we go through something different because it actually feels like before we were given that baby, we open our hearts, right?
Yeah.
In preparation. And
Yeah.
so, and you can fall in love with any baby they put kinda in front of you because your heart is just expanding, getting ready for your child to come. And it is crazy because as soon as they put your baby in your arms, um, that bond and that love, it's like instantaneous. I mean, it
Hmm.
was for me, and maybe
Hmm.
some people have to wait for that, but as soon as I was given that child, I'm like, "Yep, she's fine, no one's gonna take her
Mm.
back, and it's done here," right? And so it's crazy to me if people don't when people say that you did it to benefit the child, and I'm like, "If I had a dollar literally, for
Mhm.
every time I've heard that, and it drives me crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I tell them, I go, "I did it for purely selfish reasons, and
Yeah.
that's because I wanted to become a mother,"
Mm-hmm.
so it
It's,
wasn't to better their life.
I mean, I think I'm sure there's a part of it that, there's so many factors that you think about in adoption, and I feel like that's why your heart is so open to it,
Yeah,
because you're so intentional. You have to be so intentional.
yeah,
It's like you aren't oblivious or ignorant to the fact that, like, their birth mom was putting them up for adoption. Like,
yeah.
that's obvious, but it's such a it's such a
It's hard
it's such a crazy, like, thing. And
it's hard to
Mhm.
explain to someone that hasn't gone through it.
Yeah.
yeah,
It
yeah,
is
and
very
it's
hard.
not, you're not trying to, I don't know, I feel like there's a lot of misconceptions on it, and when people make comments like that, I just am like, okay, so you clearly don't know.
Yeah,
Uh,
you don't
you,
get
you
it.
clearly don't know how adoption is like the
It
craziest, coolest thing in the world,
it
but
is.
that's okay.
It is. Well, okay, if you wanna go religion, God adopted us all, so it's like
Mm-hmm.
creation was founded on it, basically,
Mm-hmm.
in
Mm-hmm.
my eyes. I'm like, so it should be a natural thing. I mean, in certain circumstances, and for birth moms that don't have, that want something better or can't afford to do it or emotionally do it, it's good for them to have an option to know that that child's gonna go to some place that loves them and will care for them and look after them like it's their well, it is their child. But if
Mm-hmm.
you wanna use the biological term,
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
because people say, "Oh, love them like your biological child." I don't have any. I just know my child. So,
Mhm.
but people, yeah, will use that. And oh, another thing I hate is when people say, "Are they real siblings?"
Oh, I
So,
haven't heard that, but
no, if you adopt more than one, you probably will.
yeah, we've heard, it is crazy the stuff that you hear. I definitely, my husband does so much better than I do, but he's really good at he's always like, just smile and nod, Angel. And
Mhm.
I'm like, I can't, like,
Yeah.
Just walk away. In those moments, turn your head. I'm just walking away.
hmm.
Okay, so we've been talking for a while now, and we're probably gonna have to wrap it up. But I have just a couple questions. I
Yeah.
wanted to see with your consultant,
Hmm.
when you were matched with your birth mom, did the birth mom have an agency that was helping her out at the
Hmm.
time? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
So she had her own separate agency and you had the consultant
Yep.
Hmm.
helping you out.
Interesting.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's what I was wondering, if she was getting the same type of care you got,
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah. She and our caseworker was awesome.
Mhm.
Our whole, like, I feel like it was just kind of a dream team. You
Yeah.
know, it was very she was really respectful towards our birth mom. She was really
Mhm.
respectful towards us. Like, everything, I think all of us just had the same goal, which was connection
Yeah.
and safety, and I guess legalities,
Yeah.
like, do
Yeah.
everything the right way, and do it the best way for the baby.
Yeah.
And I think all of us had that same goal in mind, and so we had a really good
Okay.
experience.
Yeah, good. That's I just because like I said, we haven't done anyone working with a consultant, so
No,
that's
that's
why I
completely new to us. That's
wanted
cool.
to know.
Mhm.
Um, I was gonna say, what is it? We had someone on if you wanted to carry a child, there is donations. You can go and adopt a fertilized egg.
Oh,
So there is that type of adoption. We've had on
oh,
our
I
podcast
have heard of
before.
that, but I haven't ever looked into it.
Yeah, I don't know if you'd be interested, but I never was. But it was
Hmm.
just like, okay, we had someone on there, but just if it's just
Hmm.
another form of adoption, but off
Hmm.
topic. But then one more thing, I like to leave people with, what do you wish starting this process you would have known to help other adoptive families?
Or any advice you have to.
Yeah.
I feel like if I could share anything with anybody who's in the process, I would just say, this kind of applies to like the rest of my life. And my husband told me this when we first started dating. But he said that he'll only ever follow peace. And I would say that same thing. I feel like adoption is so close to the heart of God that if you choose to pursue it, you will find God if you are really pursuing it that closely, and you'll find his goodness and you'll find his peace with it. And it's the character of God is peace and love, and the heart of God is peace and love. And so when you are in the adoption journey, there's a million things that can come and change the scenario at any time. And we experienced very little of that, but we did experience it. And we had moments where we knew that we needed to cling to the peace, and we needed to just trust the Lord and stay in that pocket of peace. And anybody who's doing it, like there's so many opportunities for your mind to get away from you. And I would just say to follow the peace, whatever that means to you. And I think God will reveal that to you in his just in his nature. That's what he's going to do, especially when you're so close to his heart. And so I would encourage everybody to do that. And I've had conversations with people who aren't even believers. And I mean, that's still what I would say, because it can be so, it's so important to God that he's all over it.
Yeah.
And it's so important to God that it's a huge target for the enemy.
Yeah.
And the enemy will come after you with it. So it's like you really have to just be so prepared to fight forward the peace.
Yeah.
And that's what I would say with that. And the other thing is, adoption is the single most greatest thing in this world. And if you feel like you can't, like if you feel like it's your only option, or you don't want to do it because you really want to be pregnant, or you are scared of what people will think, or you're scared because you don't know anybody who's adopted, or you're scared because of how much it will cost, or how long it will take, or all of those like very practical things. It is so worth it. If it's something that like you feel peace to do, it is truly it's the only thing in life that has ever lived up to the hype. And I have spent a lot of my life seeing a lot of really cool things, and I've always been like, oh, interesting, like that's not as cool as I thought it was going to be. I really built it up in my head, like, and I've been so blessed to experience a lot of things. And motherhood, specifically, obviously my only example is in adoption, but motherhood has been hands down the only thing that lives up to the hype. And the love that you get from holding your baby and raising your baby and watching them grow, it's like there's literally nothing that could bring you that type of awe and wonder. And just, I mean, you're just completely overwhelmed by it. And adoption is that's what adoption can offer you. And I think it's so beautiful. And I just want everybody to know that it's the real deal. It's so special.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
It's amazing. Well, thank you for coming on, Angel. I truly appreciate it. Alyssa will close us out, and this will go up on YouTube before it will hit the podcast channel. So I can send you a quick email when that does happen.
Oh, I would love that. I'm so excited. And I love talking with you guys. I feel like I could have just kept I could have kept going for hours.
Yeah.
Well, I told you we could talk. I mean, we're good at talking. We can keep it
Well, I'm
going.
happy that you guys started a podcast so that you can talk.
Thanks.
Yeah.
I know I didn't used to be a talker, but now I am more.
That's
Oh,
been
I
good.
love it.
Thank you. Thank
Thank
you.
you
Okay.
guys. Well, do we have I guess we gotta go.
Well, yeah, she'll just say goodbye and thank you for being on the show, and then we'll let you
Okay.
go.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you guys for having me.
Yeah.
You're
Thank you
welcome.
so much for joining us, Angel. And where can people find your TikTok? What's your TikTok? You can put that
My
in the
TikTok,
description.
yeah, my TikTok is my username is Kinross Coterie. It's KINROSS and COTERIE. You can also just search Angel Murphy. It's Angel with a J, Murphy, like Papa Murphy.
Awesome.
And either one of those things will pull it up. And I'm not on Instagram, but I do have an Instagram. If you want to follow me, I think I'm going to start sharing more there too. But Angel Murphy there too.
Okay.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Well, yeah, and thank you so much again, Angel. We love talking to you and hearing your story. And you're welcome back anytime.
Yeah.
Oh,
Anytime you
thank
just want to
you.
talk, hang out, we'll be here.
Awesome. You guys are so great. I'm happy I got to talk with you and
Oh,
hear a little bit about
Yeah.
your story too.
Thank you.
And
Thank
if you guys out there have anybody you know, or if you have any other questions about adoption, you can visit our website at www.activeloveadoptions.com.
Thank you, Angel.
Thank you so much.
Bye, guys.
Have a good day. I appreciate it.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.